Crochet. I'm from Southwest Louisiana, born and raised. I live in Central Texas now. And I wrote a book titled The Americanization of the Prairie and Piney with Cajuns. It's about the Cajuns of Southwest Louisiana and the Americanization, how they went from being culturally and geographically isolated into coming into contact with Anglos, and learning English, and the effects of mass media. And it's told basically through my family history. And my grandfather a few years ago came to visit me in Texas, and before he did, I wrote a list of questions I wanted to ask him, stuff about his life growing up, family history, culture history, etc. And when he arrived with my aunts, by the way, I was interviewing him, and while interviewing him, my aunt came by and said, "Hey, what you doing there, writing a book?" And without thinking, I said, "Maybe I am." And pretty much that's where it began. What started out as a list of questions and answers, thus began its development to what would ultimately become a published work of nonfiction. So I began, once my grandfather left, it occurred to me I can call him on the phone, and so I did, started writing more questions, and the phone interviews began in earnest. Then it occurred to me, well, there are other older relatives I can talk to and interview as well, including his sister, my great aunt. Started interviewing her. Then I discovered their first cousins on each side of their family, who I didn't even know existed. Met them, I called them up, started interviewing them, and started to really gain momentum. And started using Ancestry.com, which was a valuable resource for my. By the way, my great aunt, she had some genealogy papers, which was another resource. And after a few months, I was satisfied with what I had, and I was ready to secure that information into print. And I took all the interview responses and then put it into a coherent, more readable work. Which, after all, who wants to read just a list of questions and answers? So once I was satisfied with it, I thought it was readable and coherent and in good chronological order. I went and printed at a local print shop, and I was happy with that, and that was, as far as I'm concerned, my job was done, and I distributed copies out to each family, and different family members, those who I thought would be interested. And some time had passed, and then I decided to continue my interviews. There were some things I was still curious about, some gaps I wanted to fill in, so I resumed all the interviews with my grandfather, my great aunt, those distant cousins. At that point, I started purchasing books. One of them was I utilized a historical atlas of Louisiana. One was about Imperial Calcasieu Parish. Another was a huge resource with family maps of Allen Parish. It showed the homestead, where they homesteaded, and so there were some other books as well. One, History of Oberlin, Louisiana, which is near where my grandfather was raised. And so I printed the second edition, and more interviews. Started finding more resources. Started using findagrave.com. I used Father Hebert's records of Southwest Louisiana at the genealogy library in the town I was from. And third edition came out. Each one was a little bit thicker. Each one I started accumulating photographs from different family members, great photos, stuff I didn't know existed. My great-grandfather Alcide and his brother Clemence, when they were little boys, and they had breeches and just that early 19th century wear, and Papa Alcide's his wedding picture, and photos of my great-grandmother Mida when she was a little girl, just stuff I didn't know existed, and people were lending it to me, and someone gave me some of the photos, and One of my prized possessions, by the way, is a original framed portrait of my great grandparents. Was given to me, and I have it, and I have it hanging on my wall. So by then, you know, 4 total editions printed at the local copy store, local print store. You know, I've done a lot of work to it, but I decided, you know, maybe I could have it bound, you know, and it'd look good on a bookshelf. I thought it looked nice. You know, I worked so hard on it, might as well give it an attractive book cover or something like that. What I could do. So I was editing it, and then I met a local publisher, and it just I just got to talking to him, and he indicated he published his books, and he asked me if I have a book, and just so happened I was doing work on that, doing a little editing, touching up on the family history. Well, I have this here, you know, and one thing led to another, and I decided to publish it. And from that, as soon as I decided to publish, from that point on, I went from basically just that family specific, those family specific details, to adding more general history about that region. Here's where it began. Central Texas College. Behind me is the library. I spent many hours not only reading, studying, thinking, but did a lot of writing there. I had a lot of challenges and writer's block. A lot of times I found the answers right here, this place right here. When I started in 2004, spring semester, I was really surprised at how much writing was assigned to me. But I quickly learned its value because of all that practice. Not only did writing become less daunting to me, but my writing actually improved. And I credit my experiences here and at my other at the University of Charleston, Central Texas, with preparing me for becoming a writer. The publisher, Don Williams, yeah, he wouldn't accept any excuses from me, and I had a lot of excuses why not to write the book. I thought, you know, only just very few people be interested in it, or you know, maybe I shouldn't put out, you know, this family history stuff, you know, maybe it's too personal. But he indicated that, you know, Louisiana's hot right now, and I said, you know what, you're right. And so I was it. I decided to do it, and there was a point of no return. And from that point, I ceased to add family-specific data and started adding more general history of the region of Southwest Louisiana. Because of this project, I met lots of relatives whose existence I was unaware of, and probably would have remained unaware of had I not done this project. I reconnected with a lot of old friends I had seen at book signings, and I felt like I really embarked in self-education, and it's been a most worthwhile experience.